Last week I was looking across our pasture and I saw something different in the front. You'll see some brown amongst the green. And what that is a tree that's dying. A few weeks ago I cut down a pine tree out front that had died and was too close to the power lines. So I took the Kubota tractor out there and pushed against the tree to make sure it fell on our property and not on the fence or the power line. And I don't know why that tree died, but sometimes you'll get something called a pine beetle that will kill off a pine tree. But that was a peculiar one because that was a very healthy tree. And I was taking my mom last night for an after dinner ride around the property in the HISUN. And I came up to the tree and I think I know what killed it. So let's run out there and look at it, and then we'll get to taking it down and clearing it up. My mom has Alzheimer's and she's not very vocal, but my sister asked my mom last night after dinner, do you want to go for a ride in the boogie truck? So now here on Piney Grove, the HISUN is referred to as the boogie truck. There's the tree right there. I'll get a little closer to it and you let me know what you think about how it might have died. So when Mom and I rolled up to this tree last night, I immediately saw this straight line of the bark peeled, and it runs pretty much all the way up the tree, at least as far as I can see. And a few years ago, I was out on my hunting lease, and we get these pop-up thunderstorms in Florida, but they usually produce a lot of lightning. It'll cause fires and stuff here. But one of those storms happened over top of me when I was out on my lease doing some brush hogging. And so I put the tractor on the trailer and jumped in my truck, and I sat there and waited for the storm to blow over. It's maybe 75 yards away or so. Lightning hit a tree. And I saw the whole tree, it hit the top of the tree, and I saw the whole tree just kind of glow as that bolt made its way down to the ground. And when I went over and checked out the tree later when the storm had passed, I saw this same exact signature. These lines of the bark kind of peeled away in just that one area in a straight line. So what I think happened is lightning hit this tree, and it's weird because it is not the tallest tree here. It's not the biggest tree. It's actually canopied over a little bit by two other pine trees. But regardless of how it died, although I do think it's lightning, it's got to come down because eventually it'll, just drop limbs, make a mess, get caught up in the mower, and be a widowmaker or a hazard going forward. So I'm going to drop this tree. Looks like I have to drop it in the clean pasture, so there will be some sticks to pick up, but with the grapple on the front of the summit, it'll make it easier. I'm usually pretty cautious anyway about dropping trees and how they're going to fall, and a lot of times I'll have my tractor or excavator out here so that I can push it the way I want it to go. But I learned one thing from my good buddy Lucas over at Peaks Peak Hobby Homestead. He was dropping a tree and he had a brand new Kubota side-by-side like our HISUN Sector 750 here. And he had it a fair distance away from the tree, but he didn't have it far enough away. And when he dropped the tree, it actually fell right on the front of his side-by-side. The thing was probably only a couple weeks old when he actually dropped the tree on it. I'm not one of those real technical tree cutting guys as far as doing bore cuts and different type of cuts. I make a simple face cut, I make a back cut, I try to line them up and gauge how the tree is leaning naturally, and then push it with the tractor if it doesn't want to go the way I want it to go. But there's lots of videos out there, there's lots of people out there that are very technical about tree cutting. I'm just not one of them. I'm just a get it done type of guy with a chainsaw. Not a bad face cut. Not bad, not bad. My back cut was pretty even with my face cut. Probably overcut the hinge a little on that side. It started falling probably when the hinge was this thick, but I went ahead and kept cutting because I saw it was going in the right direction. All right, now I'll saw it up into manageable pieces that I can pick up with the Summit tractor and the grapple. Anything at the end that's really small, then we'll save for chipping. Because this is a dried tree already. I can't believe I just discovered that it's dead. I think that whole top is chippable, so I'm gonna leave that in one piece so I don't make as much a mess when I move it. I'm gonna go cut down this other tree I cut a few weeks ago. I'm gonna cut the stump off. It's 90 some degrees today, but it's not too bad here in the shade. Before you flame me in the comments, I know I'm wearing shorts, but it's almost unbearable not to if you want to get any work done. So I'm being safe. I got a lot of my safety equipment on. I never wear chaps anyway, so long pants wouldn't stop a chainsaw chain. Do you guys struggle hooking up hydraulic fittings like I do? I just can't do it most of the time. Now the remote function on back of the tractor for the Summit dump trailer, I can do that every time, no problem. There's no pressure on it, but these I just can't get. When I was making this video, I was like, well, I hope I don't have to use these because I don't want to seem like I'm trying to sell these or it's a commercial for these, but this X-Boom clamp, it's a lifesaver. I use it all the time. I'm using it now because I have to, not because I just want to make a video on it. And we actually have a short video, maybe even a TikTok, I can't remember. It's been a while since we posted it, but it's got several 100,000 views. And some people are, you know, trying to give a lot, you know, advice. They're, I guess, trying to be helpful in their own way. And they'll say stuff like, if you let off the hydraulic pressure, you won't have that problem. And the thing is, you can't let off the hydraulic pressure on the tractor side, and the grapple has been sitting in the sun, and that's where the pressure is. So you can do all you want on the tractor side, it's not going to make it easier. And in order to bleed the grapple side, you would have to take a wrench to this fitting and bleed off that oil and put it on the ground. This just clamps on there and pushes it on, and then it's good. I think what I'm going to do is move these bigger pieces over there so I can come from that side and not disturb those branches too much. It's been a minute since I've used a grapple. It's definitely a worthwhile implement for your tractor. Miss Piney Grove knows it's hot. She brought me some Gatorade. All right, this is the piece that I can chip this up because most of it's small enough to go in the chipper. And that doesn't leave too many branches to pick up. So what's going on, Deborah?
Well, it was hot, and I thought I'd bring you a Gatorade. And when I thought I'd bring you a Gatorade, you were up there.
Yeah.
And by the time we got out here, you were down here. So I'm being a good wife and making sure you're hydrated.
Deb said this looks fun. If everything goes right, it is. Dealing with a grapple is, but sometimes it doesn't go right. So our chipper can handle about 6-inch material. So that piece I'm going to put over here off to the side. And then as I go through and pick up all these trees I cut down a few weeks ago, I'm going to separate them like that. I'll put the bigger ones on that pile and then the smaller chippable ones over here. And this is an example of one that I put in the chipper and it just couldn't handle it. And that's probably close to 6 inches, and it was just taxing the chipper too much. All those will go on that pile, and if they don't rot down, then we'll burn them. And the reason we're separating these trees so we can chip them is we found they work great in the garden. That's so much easier than what I did before. So a couple years ago, having the Kubota L3901 and no grapple, I cut a couple trees down in this area and then just manually put them in the bucket. And they're a little bit smaller than this tree, but I had the bucket just full over top of the front of the loader and everything. And I hit a bump out there in the pasture and all of it fell off and I had to reload it. Got him. I honestly can't believe I put them there and they stayed there. It might be a first ever. Starting to get it cleaned up. I got this area behind me done, but it's real tight in here maneuvering in between the trees, and you have to be careful of so many things. One, you gotta be careful your tractor doesn't hit a tree so you don't hurt the tractor or the tree. And then your load can't be too wide inside the grapple, or else you'll hit a tree up high or down low, knock the bark off the tree, and then that'll weaken the tree and it could possibly die. But I got this area done and I'm starting to work on the other area there on the end, but it's going slow because all these trees are laid down in between these standing pines, and when I cut them up, I didn't bunch them up at all. So in order not to make 100 trips over here to the two piles behind me, the wood chipping pile and then the burning pile eventually, you got to consolidate, and it's just real hard to do. So I think what I'm going to do next is, before I do any more tractor work, get in here and where there's little trees, little tree trunks that I want to chip, kind of consolidate them in an area where I can get in with the tractor. You can see all of these are just laid down in here, and I can grab these by hand and pretty easily make a pile, let's say right there. And then I can come from the fence line, pick up that pile, and then go put it wherever I need to put it. Just be real hard to get that one laying long ways with the grapple, because you got to twist it sideways first before you pick it up. So grapple's a great tool, but it's like anything, it's not perfect. And sometimes you're spending more time and more diesel doing what you can do by hand to kind of facilitate being more efficient with the tractor. But if I tried to get these little pieces out from between the pines in here, that would have I think that would have wasted a lot of time, a lot of diesel fuel, and also I would have skun up a lot of trees. And while these trunks, where you see it in the camera, they look healthy, when you look up, you can just see some of these trees just kind of spread out, or they get funky looking at the top. And when I got in here and cut these, I thought I thinned a bunch, but looking at it now, there's a bunch more that need to go. All these that I'm throwing here are perfect chipping size. They're 4 inches or less and 6 or 7 feet long. And so it doesn't take many of them to fill up the bucket of the tractor or the dump trailer with a good load of chips. I got a nice path coming from the fence line to pick these up with the grapple. But lay your bets now. What are the chances that I can get all of these logs in one grapple? Days like today, when you start out and you're not really sure exactly what you want to get done besides cutting down that tree that was hit by lightning, sometimes you get pleasantly surprised at the amount that you can get done or the amount that you got done. And today is one of those days. We got all of those pine trees that were cut down on the ground moved to one of the two piles behind me. There's still a few branches and stuff in here, and I got to come in here with the excavator and rip out these small stumps here. But now this is a lot more clear, and this is getting closer and closer to where we'll have grass like there in here and we can mow it. And that's the plan, ease of maintenance. We have some parts of our property we've literally never stepped foot on, like 5 or 6 acres that are as wild as, you know, we bought it and we haven't done anything to tame it, and we're not going to do anything to tame it. And then we have areas like this where we want it to look somewhat natural with trees and everything, but we want it to be neat and groomed because it's the front part of our property. So we've been working on this quite a while. We probably have 2 or 3 years invested in this, you know, a weekend here and there, not totally dedicated. I think the phrase that comes to mind is eating an elephant. And the only way you can eat an elephant is one bite at a time. And that's the way this area seems to be. It's not very big. Probably only a couple acres, but I've got a lot of time invested in it, and I've got a lot more time I've got to do. In fact, I'm going to get on the tractor and do a little bit more work here, but I'm going to close out the video. We sure appreciate you guys watching. We appreciate your support, and as always, remember, life's short, tractor hard.